Dear student, welcome again to our online class. Today we will discuss a poem by J.M. Hopkins, Spring and Fall. Gerald Manley Hopkins was a Victorian poet who seemed comfortable with addressing heavy topics within his work, as is the case with spring and fall, rather than solely focus on the lighter aspects of life. He was willing to discuss less pleasant notions to deliver works that could resound on deep levels with readers. According to one source, though, his choices of topic and delivery were reasons as to why his primary fame and publication as a poet only happened after his death. Regardless, he is noted today as one of the most prominent and skilled poets of his time. Now we will read the poem, complete text of Spring and Fall. It is addressed to a young child, Margaret. Margaret, are you grieving over golden grove, unliving, leaves like the things of man? You, with your fresh thoughts, care for, can you? Ah, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder, by and by, nor spare a sigh, though worlds of vanhood leave me lie, and yet you will weep not why. Now no matter, child, the name, sorrow's spring are the same, nor mouth, head, nor nor mind expressed. What heart heard of ghost guessed, it is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourn for. So this is the poem by J.M. Hopkins to a young child, Margaret. Spring and Fall by Hopkins uses unique rhyme scheme and the concept of nature's damage as a representation of something much deeper. The poem opens with a question to child. Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unliving? Golden Grove, a place whose name suggests an idyllic play world, is unliving or losing its leaves as winter approaches. And the child, with her fresh thoughts, cares about the leaves as much as about the things of man. The speaker reflects that age will alter this innocent response, and that later whole world of forest will lie in leafless disarray, without arousing Margaret's sympathy. The child will weep then too, but for a more conscious reason. However, the source of this knowing sadness will be the same as that of her childish grief. For sorrows spring are the same. That it is though neither her mouth nor her mind can yet articulate the fact as clearly as her adult self will. Margaret is already mourning over her morality. Now we will discuss the form of the poem. The poem has a lyrical rhythm appropriate for an address to a child. In fact, it appears that Hopkins began composing a musical accompaniment to the verse, though no copy of it remains extant. The lines form couplets and each line has four beats, like the characteristic ballad line, though they contain an irregular number of syllables. The sing song effect this creates in the first lines is complicated into something more uneasy in the last seven. The rhymed couplet at the center of the poem creates a pivot for this change. Hopkins' sprung rhythm meter lets him orchestrate the juxtapositions of stresses in unusual ways. Now we will discuss the whole poem line to line. The title of the poem invites us to associate the young girl Margaret in freshness, innocence, and directness of emotions with the springtime. Hopkins' choice of the American word fall rather than the British word autumn is deliberate. It links the idea of autumnal decline or decay with the biblical fall of man from grace. Margaret experiences an emotional crisis when confronted with the fact of death and decay that the falling leaves represent. What interests the speaker about her grief is that it represents such a singular phase in the development of human beings' understanding about death and loss because Margaret has already reached a certain level of maturity. Can she feel sorrow at the onset of autumn? The speaker knows what she does not, namely, as she grows older, she will continue to experience this same grief but with more self consciousness about its real meaning. You will weep and know why. And without the same mediating, though nor space aside, the worlds of manhood leave me lie. This eighth line is perhaps one of the most beautiful in all of Hopkins' work. The world suggests a perhaps one of the most sorry the word world suggests is perhaps one of the most beautiful in all of Hopkins' works. The word world suggests a deviation and decline that spreads without and well beyond the bounds of little golden grove that seems so vast and significant to a child perception. Loss is basic to human experience and is absolute and all consuming. Manhood carries the suggestion of pallor and sickness in the world when and also provides a nice description of fading colors of the earth as winter dormancy approaches. The word leaf meal, which Hopkins coined by analogy with piecemeal, expresses with poignancy the sense of wholesale havoc with which the sight of strewn fallen leaves might strike a naked and sensitive mind. The narrator in this poem argues the young child that heart will age and mature until she is colder towards sights of nature's demise, so much as she will not spare a sigh for them once she is older. This information is given after a quick ah for a transactional element from her current grief to her future lack of mourning, and that simple addition to the poem offers a restful quality to the concept, as if the narrator thinks fondly of Margaret's youthful ideas, but ultimately knows that they will not survive until her adulthood. Is this a conditioning quality, or is it just an indication of nostalgia overtaking the narrator? The answer to this question is speculation at best, but given the description of when would leaf mill lie, which is a cumbersome way to say that a collection of dead leaves are cluttered together, the reader could easily conclude that the narrator in is in fact being condensing by flashing his knowledge of deeper and more mature concept that the child cannot grasp. Once more, in the Hopkins presents the reader with concepts that are linked to natural ideas, therefore constructing a concrete representation of the human life through metaphor. In particular, humans' sorrow does not have storage, a supply, or some other generic method of expression. It has springs and the choice of worldling perils, sorrows, existence with that of a body of fresh. In the final and heaviest moment of the poem, Hopkins goes on to identify what this sorrow is that Margaret feels and will. He assures us continue to feel, although in different ways. The statement in the line 11th that sorrow's springs are the same suggests not only that all sorrows have the same source, but also that Margaret, who is associated with springtime, represent a stage all people go through in coming to understand morality and laws. What is so remarkable about this stage is that while the mouth cannot say what the grief is for, nor the mind can even articulate it silently. Though the narrator's tone towards the child is tender and sympathetic, he does not try to comfort her, nor are his reflections really addressed to her because they are beyond her level of understanding. We suspect that the poet has at some point gone through the same ruminations that he now observes in Margaret, and that his once initiative grief that leads to these more conscious reflections. Overall, this poem is commentary to fear and dread of death that is so integral to life. Young Margaret does not grasp that she has any kind of thought of her own morality, and according to Hopkins, she will not have that understanding until later in life. Still, that heaviness in regard to morality surfaces in details that she does grasp, like that she recognizes morality, and one day she will realize that her resistance towards it is connected to her own end. Even though she does not yet know, the dread is there, highlighting the fear and concern of morality that haunts human throughout life. So, you have seen that Spring and Rhythm poem addressed to a young girl, Margaret.